This is the Everything Else podcast right here on YouTube, and I am your host, Money Mike. And today on the Everything Else podcast, as I said in my last Front 7 podcast, where I discussed whether or not the Carolina Panthers could be 16-0, and they just crushed the Falcons on Sunday. They very well could be coming back to Charlotte in 2 weeks, 15-0, going for 16-0. And if you haven't done so already, check out that video. That is by far the most watched video on this channel since I've started doing the Front 7 and Everything Else podcast back in May. Thank you so much for that. But today here on the Everything Else podcast, well, I was going to discuss Roman Reigns. And for those non-wrestling fans out there, don't worry, I have some more topics coming up on Everything Else podcast and you may like. But for the wrestling fans, I wanted to do this because heading into TLC, I knew, and I think everybody knew, it would be predictable. Sheamus retains title via the help of the League of Nations. Because let's face it, why would you put these guys together and then nothing comes of it? Sheamus retained the title of TLC. Now, on Raw on Monday night, the shocker. It's been over a year since we have seen Vince McMahon on WWE TV. He was last seen, I think, if I remember correctly, it was leading up to Survivor Series, where he told the Authority that if they had lost, that they were going to be out of power. And I believe that was the last time that we saw Vince McMahon on WWE TV. So Roman Reigns gets screwed over at TLC. Roman Reigns goes berserk. Roman Reigns becomes this Samoan badass of the Shield that we've been wanting him to be. Now I say of the Shield because in the Shield, Roman Reigns was this badass character. And then they split him up, and then WWE goes, well, hey, we're going to make you Cena 2.0, right? The next John Cena. Well, let's see here. Roman Reigns gets this big push heading into the Royal Rumble. He got injured before he could face Seth Rollins at Night of Champions. So, let's see. He's out. He comes back to TLC. In the Royal Rumble of this year, and again, I tell this story because just in case, because this is the most interesting thing I've ever seen. Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia. Daniel Bryan returns from his neck injury. He announces he's in the Royal Rumble. Big problem. That's problem number one. They should have kept Daniel Bryan out of this mess, out of the Rumble in the first place. Because it probably would have prevented, or at least it would have not been as bad as it was, if when Roman won the Royal Rumble. So Roman won the Royal Rumble. Even The Rock made an appearance. Saved Roman Reigns from getting beat up by Rock and Big Show and Kane. And at the end of the Rumble, Rock and Roman were in the ring, and you could see the look on The Rock's face. The Rock was confused. He was thrown off by Philadelphia booing the living hell out of Roman Reigns, winning the Royal Rumble, right? We get to WrestleMania. I'm going to skip over Reigns and Bryan at Fastlane. We get to WrestleMania. Oh, there's no way. Oh, Brock Lesnar, he's going to leave. So Roman Reigns is going to get the title, and Brock's going to go back to the UFC. So days before WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar goes on ESPN and goes, hey, I just signed a new contract with the WWE. I'm staying with the WWE. I enjoy being here more than I do the UFC. Yada, yada, yada. So now we have this little dilemma. Okay, so now what's going to happen at WrestleMania? Because logic says in wrestling that if you are leaving, you put somebody over before you leave. Unless you just walk out and quit like CM Punk. Now we have Brock Lesnar with the new contract versus this young upcoming upstart who WWE desperately wants Reigns to be the next John Cena. So here we go. It looks like it's going to happen. Roman Reigns battles back, and then Brock catches him with an F5. Out comes Seth Rollins. Seth pins Roman. 1, 2, 3. Seth becomes the champion to save from the crowd of WrestleMania booing the hell out of Roman Reigns becoming champion of WrestleMania and beating Brock Lesnar. Now let's fast forward all the way to the end of the year to this very point. TLC, he got screwed. He snapped. He beat the holy hell out of everybody. The League of Nations, he even attacked Triple H. And so Vince McMahon wants to be there to fire him for what he did to his son-in-law. Sheamus comes out and says, hey, I'll face him. Hell, I'm so confident that I'll beat him that I'll even put the title on the line. Roman convinces Vince to agree to sanction that match for the title. And then Vince does what he does best and tries to, cost the face the title. Did the same thing with Austin in the Attitude Era. So now, here we go. Trying to do the same thing with Roman. But the stipulation here was that if Roman Reigns did not win the title, Roman Reigns would be fired. So, of course, Vince, he pulls the referee out when it seems a shame Reigns is going to win. And Reigns, everything else he battles back. And then Vince just has the referee distracted. Here comes the League of Nations. Roman Reigns overcomes them. And then he gave a Superman punch to Vince McMahon to knock him off the apron. A couple minutes later, he becomes your new WWE champion. And I mentioned all of that earlier from the Royal Rumble WrestleMania because here we are in December now. Go back on the WWE Network. The WWE, now normally WWE would edit out the crowd reactions because they do it a lot for SmackDown, for the SmackDown tapings. But go back on the network and rewatch the Royal Rumble match. And rewatch the end of it when they are booing the hell out of Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble. Now, here we are in December. Monday night, Raw. Roman Reigns versus Sheamus for the title. Guess where Raw was on Monday? Philadelphia, in the same arena that booed him out of the building when he won the Royal Rumble. Were cheering, and they popped for him winning the World Heavyweight title. When back in January, they wanted nothing to do with Roman Reigns being in the title picture or being in the main event of WrestleMania. How unbelievable is that? That is by far the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen so much of a turnaround like that before. It took them a whole year to finally get Roman Reigns over. But they finally figured out. It took them a whole year to figure out that for Roman Reigns to get over, give the fans the Roman Reigns they want to see. Not the Roman Reigns that is, for some strange reason, and I don't know why creative is so stupid, but not the Roman Reigns that is talking about nursery rhymes, tater tots, and all this other childish lingo to try to appeal to kids. That's why he has his reputation. Now, granted, Roman Reigns is not that good on the microphone as it is, but WWE gave him all this stuff of this corny. Okay, go out there and say nursery rhymes, suffer and succotash, because that's still relevant in 2015, right? Tater tots. I mean, the Raw before TLC, having him talk about tater tots and potatoes. God almighty, I don't know what they were thinking on that one. But finally, it took them a year to figure out. The fans don't want that Roman Reigns. They want the Roman Reigns that was a badass in the Shield. And they finally gave it to the fans. They finally gave that Roman Reigns to the fans. After a year. And it's funny because the whole thought process for this show, for this topic, was I was going to come on here and explain some theories and everything else. And, well, Roman Reigns winning the title kind of throws that off. But I'm still going to go over it because now, what's it going to be heading into WrestleMania? We're only a couple months away from WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, if you read the internet, you read the dirt sheets, and you hear the rumors of matches, Roman Reigns versus John Cena, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar again, John Cena versus Undertaker. You hear all these things, then you hear Triple H versus Roman Reigns, and you hear all these things, and it's weird, and all these injuries that have happened to the WWE, where it's a depleted roster at the minute, with all these injuries. So now with Reigns having the title, where does this all go? Because now we're in a situation where a year ago at this time, December 2014, a month before the Rumble, a month before the 2015 Royal Rumble, where it was obvious that Reigns was going to win the Rumble. Now, who is going to win the 2016 Royal Rumble? And now, Roman is going to go from being booed out of the building and being booed at WrestleMania to being cheered and being this over babyface that the WWE has wanted all year long. It was like Santa gave the WWE a Christmas present in that form. It was like Santa said, alright, you know what? Here's your present for this year. Roman Reigns is now over with the fans. Now you just kind of think, where does this go for WrestleMania? I mean, that's going to make it interesting to see. But, it's funny because I still think it's quite odd that Philadelphia booed Roman Reigns out of the building in January. Now they're cheering him. I have a little theory on this, because what I feel happened was that once the word got out that Roman Reigns was going to win the Rumble, that he was going to be the guy of the Shield to get the push, the fans probably, it's strange, because you always hear the fans say, yeah, Shield triple threat for the title of WrestleMania, Ambrose, Rollins, Reigns for the title of WrestleMania. It's all you hear the fans say. I want to see that match. I want to see all three members of the Shield face off in the main event of WrestleMania for the world title. But yet, Roman Reigns, by himself, the fans rejected being in the main event of WrestleMania and facing Brock Lesnar. So how is it that the fans have no problem with Roman Reigns being in the main event of WrestleMania if he's facing off with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins for the title, but have a complete problem if those two are left out of it? Can anybody figure that one out for me? Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of what happened at the Rumble was more so for reason of the fact that they got wind that the fans got wind from reading the dirt sheets that Roman Reigns was going to be the next John Cena. And I think this is where I'm kind of gonna go full circle with this, because I believe if what we saw from Roman Reigns on Sunday and Monday, if that was the Roman Reigns that we would have gotten prior to the 2015 Royal Rumble, all through 2015, all of it, all of the booing, all of the negativity would have been nowhere to be seen. The fans weren't booing Roman Reigns because they don't like him. Now, there may be some fans that don't like Roman Reigns at all. Maybe they're fans of other superstars. That's fine. You can like whoever. That's the best part about the WWE, is you can like whatever superstar you want. I believe they were booing the fact that, that WWE was getting ready to make him the next John Cena. And the fans don't want another John Cena. I believe they were booming more so, not because they don't like Roman. Now, maybe some of them in that crowd at the Royal Rumble, they didn't like Roman. Maybe they didn't like him. I don't know. Maybe they just don't. Maybe he's not their favorite. So that's understandable. But when you have an entire crowd, 14, 15,000 people booing him, they weren't booing him. It was, just like the Royal Rumble in 2014, where I feel they weren't booing Batista. Yeah, they wanted to see Batista come back. Yeah, it was cool. Another return. Awesome, right? If Batista was brought back at any other time, they would have cheered him. But because the WWE, from SummerSlam 2013 all the way up until Daniel Bryan won the title at WrestleMania, or through the TLC, or whatever, maybe to TLC, I don't know what it was, but was giving us that storyline of Daniel Bryan getting screwed over and over and over. Notice anything similar? Yeah. So they gave us the same Daniel Bryan storyline with Roman Reigns. But the WWE kept screwing over Daniel Bryan. They kept on giving him these false finishes. He kept getting screwed over. And so the fans are sitting there thinking, okay, if he's just going to keep getting screwed over, logic says he overcomes it. He overcomes everything, wins the Royal Rumble, wins the title at Mania. Well, WWE had no, and I say that for a reason. They had no plans to give us Daniel Bryan getting his getting his revenge and coming out on top. They just want to keep screwing him over. They wanted to present Randy Orton versus Batista at WrestleMania 30 as the main event for the world title. And they wanted to stick Daniel Bryan against Sheamus. They were going to ignore all of that and put Bryan in a match against Sheamus. And then here we are. Same thing happened with Roman Reigns. And this time, at least WWE had plans to put the title on Roman Reigns after all the screw jobs. So, again, I go back to the Rumble. Batista winning it. They would have been happy to see Batista win at any other time if he would have came back in 2013, 2012, if he would have waited and came back this year, whatever. They would have cheered him. They would have been happy to see him. But because of what WWE was doing with Daniel Bryan, and the fans wanted to see the story come full circle with Bryan winning the title, they rejected the booking, not Batista, the booking of the Royal Rumble finish. And I believe when you go back and watch the 2015 Royal Rumble, they weren't booing Roman Reigns. They were booing the creative booking decision of WWE wanting to make Roman Reigns the next John Cena. If they had booked Roman Reigns to be a Samoan badass from the beginning, all of that would have not happened. Now, granted, Philadelphia is a die-hard wrestling town, so maybe they still would have booed Roman Reigns out of the building. But it wouldn't have been as bad as it was. They wouldn't even need The Rock to go out there and make his cousin look good. Like, hey, I'm a future Hall of Famer, and I just helped here's my cousin. I just helped him win the Royal. Here's my cousin. Cheer him. Nope. I don't think they would have needed all of that. But, as I said, where does the WWE go from here? Seth Rollins injured. Cesaro injured. Randy Orton injured. John Cena should come back sometime soon, whenever he's done filming. They refuse to clear Daniel Bryan for some strange reason, even though other doctors have cleared him. Now, here's my other theory with this. Daniel Bryan, here's the thing. When they brought Daniel Bryan back, it was one of those things where, okay, his title run was short-lived. He had to give it to injury. And I think the fans believed that it was going to be Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar. Then Roman Reigns won. And I think, again, the Daniel Bryan over factor came in. And so when he was eliminated early, the fans rejected that. So this time around, I think WWE is smart enough to not actually clear him. I think this time they are trying to get they accomplished getting Roman Reigns over on Raw. They want to get Roman Reigns over as champion before clearing Daniel Bryan to wrestle. I think it's one of those things where once Roman Reigns is over and the fans like him and they respect him as the champion, Daniel Bryan is going to magically be cleared out of nowhere, despite the fact that he could have already been cleared by now. But the WWE doesn't want the fans to do what they did back at the Rumble and completely ruin Roman Reigns' push with Bryan being around. So, I don't know. WrestleMania is going to be interesting. You have superstars that are injured, a depleted roster. What's going to happen? Roman Reigns is going to go into WrestleMania as a champion. Sheamus will get his rematch at the Royal Rumble. But from there, what will happen? Will Roman Reigns face Triple H at Fastlane, or will Triple H maybe make an appearance in the Royal Rumble and win it and face Roman for the title? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But, yeah, that's my whole take on this whole Roman Reigns thing. I came in here with this show, and I thought, Roman Reigns would not be the champion yet. And I thought maybe he would have won it at the Royal Rumble. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen now that he is the champion. We're heading into WrestleMania season, the best time of the year for the WWE. They always step up during WrestleMania. Who's going to come back? Is Daniel Bryan going to come back? Who else could come back? I mean, there's so many unanswered questions now heading into this year's WrestleMania. It actually makes you excited for it because you actually, for once, don't know what's going to happen. Because with all these injuries, you really just don't know what's going to happen and who's going to face who. Roman Reigns by now, he's the champion. And the WWE got what they wanted all year long, and he is finally over with the crowd as the champion. Philadelphia booed him back in January. They cheered and popped for him winning the title on Monday Night Raw. I've been your host, Money Mike. This has been the Everything Else Podcast. And stay tuned for later this week as I will have a special Coaching Carousel edition of the Front 7 Podcast as I discuss the head coaches that are on the hot seat heading into the final 3 games of 2015. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you later this week on the Front 7 Podcast.